Hi, my name is Monica Kretschmer, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Universal Women's Network, Women of Inspiration Awards, and this is the Women of Inspiration podcast, where we speak with women who lead, inspire, and motivate. Today's guest is Erin Gallagher. She is the CEO and founder of the Hype Women, author of Hype Women, Breaking Free from Mean Girls, Patriarchy, and and the systems that silence you. That is a mouthful, but it is a
Mouthful.
big,
It's a big subtitle.
it's
It's a
a
big title.
big issue, Erin,
Yep.
and what you're doing is incredible. So I am excited to have this conversation with you today, but I just want to first kind of do a little nod here. Because I think that people that are listening, they're like those that may not know you, and there are some still that don't, and there's a large population that have been following you, but you spent over the past 20 years creating movements, leading global marketing initiatives, advising leaders at the White House, Fortune 100 companies, and with some of the world's most recognizable brands. So, it what sparked this movement, and we'll get into this, is your viral post on LinkedIn featuring the best actress. I mean, we all love her to pieces, Jamie Lee Curtis, who unapologetically was hyping a woman, Michelle Yeoh, at the Golden Globes for Best Actress. And I know that I showed this t-shirt, and like literally I was sporting it. I bought it off the website, and I hope that was you, by the way. That would I didn't even think. I hope that was you that had this printed. Was it you?
So I made a shirt that looks very similar to that one. It was the picture of Jamie and Michelle, and then it said, "Find her Jamie, be their Jamie," under it. So the Friends Supporting Friends is a different shirt that Jamie's cast members from Everything Everywhere All at Once actually put on her front porch right after she recovered from COVID. So, yes, I mean same vein, slightly different shirt, but like the message and the admiration for the moment is there.
Okay, so glad you cleared that because I just wanted to ask you, like, this is the shirt that I have, the Friends Supporting Friends. Okay,
Well, girl, we got to get you the Hype Women shirt.
good, good. I'll be waiting for that on my doorstep, Erin. But
We'll
I
do.
just want to say, like, that moment really sparked everything that we're going to talk about here. And really, she is such the epitome of a woman of inspiration who leads, inspires, and motivates. So, love to talk about that. This conversation will dive into how hype is more than applause, and it's a radical shift of how we champion women, rewrite the systems, and own who we really truly are. So, Erin, it is a pleasure to have you on the Woman of Inspiration podcast. I would like to start with taking you back to the very beginning, before the hype women, before the breaking Zoom, before all of this. What did you want to be when you grew up?
Mm. Well, I mean, if I go back to first grade, I I wanted to be an astronaut. That's what I actually wore to like career day. So that was it was a short-lived dream, but that's the first memory I have of wanting to be something. And then I wanted to be an architect. And that moment came from my mom making a comment on something that I was doing. I noticed the way that a certain building was structured, and I said, "This really reminds me of sort of um, Japanese architecture." And she was like, "You should be an architect." And and so that I wanted to do that. I think so much of what you want to be when you grow up, when you're younger, is based on what other people tell you you're good at. And that either continues to be fueled by the people in your life who celebrate something, that a spark that you have, a talent, or it can be extinguished because you're criticized and you're told you're not good enough and all of these sorts of things. And so I had a lot of support growing up from people telling me that thing that you just said, follow that, look at that. But when I was in college and I was really truly thinking about what comes next, I thought I was going to be a lawyer. I took the LSAT. I had plans to go to law school. I wanted to be a justice warrior. That was so much of my life had been about wanting to be a voice for those that didn't have the privilege, the platform, the opportunity, who were facing barriers to be given the access that they deserved. And so all of my friends who went straight to law school said, might we recommend that you work at a law firm for a year? Because all of us that have spent a year in law school kind of wish that we didn't have to keep going. And I know there are lawyers who love their job, but this was a group of people who told me, like, just, think about something else. So I actually worked at a nonprofit, legal aid, watchdog. That was my first job out of college. Service Members Legal Defense Network. Our entire mission was to lift the ban on gays in the military, which we ultimately did. And so that's what started my career. And from there, I did realize that I didn't want to be a lawyer, but I did love this idea of fighting for something bigger than myself, for being a part of a community and creating a movement. And so I spent 15 years in marketing, PR, and communications, really trying to use that skill set to elevate causes that needed to be seen at a global level and people whose voices needed to be heard. So it was a winding path. It was a very winding path that landed me where I ended up. And then I went into entrepreneurship, which was just a right turn. So here we are.
Erin, number one, I actually almost became a lawyer myself, but that was because I had spent so much time that I thought I should get an honorary law degree. Because
Yes.
my story was, you know, how I started into what I was doing. It was like the 4,800 hours of litigation, 22 days of trial. And that was the first 7 years. That's not the second 7 years. I thought they should just give me an honorary law degree and say, you go, Miss Kretschmer, because you've cleared the path for so many other people. Anyways, long story short, I always ask that question because it's really interesting to see the path that women take, where it's we've done things that may not look connected, but when we pull them all together, there is a common thread. So, what would you say that common thread would be for you, looking back at all of your, experimentation into other areas that led you to this point?
Yeah, I wanted to do things differently. I did not want to be limited by systems that were created by and for people that didn't look like me, or 51% of the population and half of the labor force. So it's funny to think about the astronaut piece, because I actually bought the URL Make Space for Women about 6 years ago. Because I was like, I love the double entendre here, make space for women. We need more women to be in this field, but also make space for them. We deserve to have, we deserve to be at every single table in every single room with the power and privilege that we are should be afforded. So that's kind of like a tongue-in-cheek recognition of that desire to be an astronaut. But what the through line through all of it is storytelling, communicating, and finding an inherent truth that connects people, and not being afraid to challenge the systems that really make up the fabric of our being. We don't recognize so often that conditioning has truly made up our personality, until we get to a point where we say, do I really believe that? Or is that just what I've always been told to believe? And when you hit that point, it doesn't happen for everyone, but it definitely happened for me when I turned 40. It just completely blows your world apart, because you realize so much of what you were doing had nothing to do with what you believed and had everything to do with what you've been conditioned to do. So I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And it was a winding path for sure, but this is what I was meant to do, was to use my voice and my ability to make people feel seen and validated, to help them heal themselves.
Beautiful. So you talk about turning 40. I mean, I started my business when I was 43. Can you imagine that? Like, we have many, many,
Yes.
many conversations, Erin, to go through. But when you mentioned that you turned 40 and, 6 days later, publicly resigned from the company that you co-founded,
Mhm.
you said that what happened next was something that you didn't expect to ever happen. So maybe let's dive into that.
Um, it was the death of my ego. I think that's how to synopsize it into a sentence. The ego is what you want the world to see you as. It's what you sort of like your reputation. It's what you put out there. And I had been fabricating everything that I thought was necessary in order to be successful as a woman in corporate America um, for 15 years. But when it was stripped away, when I left and started my own company, and then when that company turned out to not be what I thought it was, it just completely destroyed my identity. I didn't have a way forward anymore. I thought that my way out of corporate was my way forward. But then when I went into entrepreneurship and I was in an experience where I ended up resigning from the company I co-founded and poured so much into 2.5 years later, there was no obvious next option. And so that was just a total unraveling. And I think it was the first time in my life that I really had to stop running to the next thing and trying to find the silver lining and make it all be worth something. I kind of was like, you know what? Maybe this is just actually shit. Maybe that's what this is. And so I was in a period of liminality for months where I just wasn't sure where I was going. And I think it was in that time that I started to scratch at that interior of the cocoon that I had sort of dissolved myself into goo inside of. And I was like, I don't know what this is going to be yet, but if I'm doing it on my terms, I think that it will be more sustainable. And so this experience for the past 3 years now of my company has been about really being honest about the fact that I don't know what I'm doing and I know exactly what I'm doing. Like that paradox is I think what has been very freeing for me is this notion that like, yeah, I'm just figuring this out day by day and I'm messing up, but I'm fixing it and I'm creating new stuff and then I'm walking away from things. And so it feels like I have no idea what I'm doing, but also that is the thing. This is the work. This is the work. And recognizing that present moment has been it's been a relief. It's been a relief.
So I think, having been in both worlds, I mean, and a little bit more, because you threw like single mom with a 7-month-old baby on top of that. I can relate to that, but and having the space to really allow yourself to figure it out too was very smart, because often we have no choice. There is no plan B. You have to stick with a plan A because there isn't a plan B. So let me ask you, do you believe in plan A do you believe that you have to have a plan B? Let me ask you that. That wasn't in my questions, but I'm so curious.
Yeah. Monica, I didn't have like a plan C. So like a plan B, a plan A. I mean, I honestly didn't really have them. I thought plan A was I'm going to work inside of this agency and I'm going to run my department and I'm going to be the most senior person eventually. That was the plan. So when that got blown up and I was like, wait a minute, what if I left corporate America? I didn't have a plan anymore. There was no like obvious stretch goal because I was now in this very foreign space of entrepreneurship. And so it was just more like a survival thing. That's what it felt like at first. It felt like survival. But going through the experience of walking away, which I never thought I would do and I didn't think was an option, I really didn't. That told me that all of these best laid plans were just sort of fabrications and that I needed to start to actually deal with the stuff that I had been avoiding in order to start to show up as myself fully. A self that I had to kind of reestablish because, again, of that death of the ego, identity loss. So, like, you're so right. My ability to take a little bit of time was an absolute privilege. Um, my husband kind of carried the bulk of the weight in terms of the finances, but I also cashed out 15 years of my 401k. So that's not advice that most people would give. Because I didn't have this plan where, like, hey, if this all happens, where's my savings? No, I was just going based on kind of like I needed to save myself. And so saving myself meant getting out, and then I was going to have to figure out what came next by haphazardly putting my life back together. So there was privilege to it, but there was also immense risk, immense risk, and a cashing in on like a life that I thought was going to look very different.
Mm. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's happened in between the time that took that time to reevaluate and then jumped in with both feet again. So, the book says, I mean, you're calling out mean girls,
Mhm.
right? And you're like, I'm coming for you, girls. So let's talk about those mean girls because I have a women's network. So, of course, you know, they don't come or appear as mean girls in the very beginning. So what I would love to have you share a little bit about is, you had a little bit of mean girl episode and a smear campaign. So are you ready to talk about that, or can you talk about that? And it was, how other women find themselves in similar situations. So maybe you can talk a little bit about what prompted you to really call out those mean girls and hype women.
Yeah. My examples are just every woman has them to varying degrees. And so you could really just replace small details of the things that I've experienced in the past few years. And most women can relate to it. They've either had it happen to them before, it's happening to them right now, or unfortunately, it's going to happen to them. And so, whether it was someone talking shit behind my back in my own community of my kids' school, whether it's business relationships that take a turn and everyone has to decide how they're going to act after in the aftermath. It's all about the fact for me, what I recognize as the through line was I recognized that these women were not who they said they were. And I addressed it and decided that they no longer had access to me. And the thing about mean girls is that when you ignore them or you stop giving them attention, you take away your access, it drives them insane. It drives them insane because so much of what they build their lives around and their ego on is that they get reactions from people, that they have power that makes people feel something. So when you don't feel anything in response to their behavior, it is it's like a glitch. Like it's just like the whole system just like doesn't know what to do. So that was my shift is I was like, I'm actually not going to engage anymore with women that make me feel like shit, with women who are disrespectful to me and to other women, with women who enjoy seeing me struggle. And when you start to identify them and you remove their access to you, it is, you just breathe new life into yourself and you also remove the oxygen from them.
So I'm going to ask you a question here. I mean, there's a lot of women that are probably listening to the podcast and going, I wasn't always this kind or this caring or this understanding. And, they may have fallen into the other side of the tracks. And there's some women that are like, oh my God, like that part, I've accepted a part of that. So what would you say to those women about breaking that habit? I mean, we're living in a world where we need to pull women up, not tear women down. There's no benefit to us as a species to try and move forward if we can't work together. So, if there's women that are kind of listening and have gotten to this habit of not being champions, what would you say to them?
I would say, I get it. I understand. I've been there. I go there sometimes. I think that there's a mean girl inside of all of us. It's not our fault, it's our conditioning. We have been taught our entire lives to view other women as threats and competition, and to see another woman's success as a detraction from ours, right? Her joy steals yours. That it's the scarcity mindset. That's what creates the divide and the divisiveness. So I always say to myself when I have that moment where I think, is she really that good? What she has a podcast, right? That message that comes into my brain when I see another woman succeeding and doing something and being out there about it. My first question is like, where is that really coming from? And almost always the answer is it's coming from a place of desire. It's like, I want that. I want to be that successful. I want to have a podcast, fill in the blank, whatever it is. A lot of the time, the jealousy, what's underneath it is desire. And so, if we can say, this actually isn't even about her, the feeling that I'm having, where I've now decided I'm pissed or annoyed, or I don't want her to actually do well, none of that is real. It's everything that's surrounding this fear that I have of taking the leap and the risk to maybe go and try to get that too. And so, that is going to take a lot more work. It's going to take therapy. It's going to take, this is not like okay, and now I've flipped the switch. But what is an instant option is to hype her. That's the thing that you can do immediately in the moment that will start to rewire your brain, and it will start to create endorphins where you are flooded with cortisol. So when you see that woman doing something that you wish you could be doing and you have that moment of jealousy and maybe even envy, if you take the action to hype her, you post about it, reach out to her and tell her she's doing an amazing job. If she's selling a product, you buy that product. You transfer your capital, whether it's your human, social, financial, or political capital, to her. We are going to start to rewrite this wrong that has been taking women down for centuries.
I love it. And in the green room, I was so excited. I actually ironed the shirt, Erin. Like you could probably see the creases, and I would have worn it today for you.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, like I would have like had it on, but I was also
Listen, it
supporting another
smells
girl.
so it's so good and that works too. Listen, that works too. Because remember what you're doing right now, Monica, is you're transferring your political capital to me by having me on your podcast, right?
Absolutely.
This is, and then I will be transferring my social capital to you by amplifying this and my human capital by having this conversation. This is a continuous deposit and withdrawal, like relationship that if we see it that way and we don't have a scoreboard where we're like, hold on, wait a minute, I don't know if I want to do that. Did you do enough? That's the exhausting thing that trips women up. Men don't ever think that. They're like, you need something? Cool, I got you. They don't spend time wasting deciding who they're going to give hype to. They just give it. And I'm not saying that it's our fault. They see themselves everywhere. They are in every position of power and influence in the universe. So they have an abundance mindset. We will not get there unless we start making different choices.
And it's all up to the leaders in order to make those decisions. So it's up to you, and it's up to I, and it's up to all of the other women that are in positions of power to make that happen. Because if we're not doing it in our own breadth, in communities and our networks, what does that say for everybody else? Right.
Right.
So it's even more important, if you have any position of power, to make sure that you use that power wisely and carefully. And, just it's always been about, building that networking community. And I've got to say, Erin, that, there's something to be said when you create almost a value mindset around those principles. I mean, we had courage, confidence, commitment, and integrity. If those don't resonate with you, you're probably not, a woman of inspiration, right? There's some that slip through the cracks. Let me tell you, there's some that slip through the cracks, but
Yep.
then they don't mesh and they fall off the tracks very quickly. And then you stay focused. You just keep going. So I really love the honesty. And I think that it's that conversation about really calling out those things that I think that every woman, I mean, I think we've all done it at one point in our lives, and we all have to catch ourselves from doing it again if we want to be really, truly authentic. But realizing that the power in championing somebody is so much greater than not. And
Right.
so I just like that is the key there. And I want to jump back into, that viral post, right? Because it's women in positions of power that have the ability to make this change. And I just would love you to talk about that experience. But, it was a post when Jamie Lee Curtis was hyping Michelle Yeoh, and it was on TV and sitting there watching and, like woo! Like we're talking both fists in the air, like jumping up and down, so happy to see someone else succeed. And so talk to us and take us through what you were feeling as you were watching that happen, because I know what I was feeling, but I didn't take the screenshot. You took that screenshot, so I want to hear it from you.
I just had never seen another woman celebrating another woman's success so publicly and unabashedly as if it were her own win. I just had never seen it done like that. And it wasn't contrived, it wasn't strategic. It was pure joy and pure, I mean, it's just who Jamie is. So when I saw that moment, I thought to myself, wait a minute, this might be the unlock. This might be the unlock for us because we keep saying, try harder, go for, try to get to the highest position so that then we can make change and all of these things. And but we're still operating inside of a system that wasn't built by and for us. And we're also still operating with like a very masculine energy when we do it that way. This was a feminine energy. This was a feminine energy of feeling and truly being in a vibration and a, a moment without overthinking. Like that's truly what it was. And so I said, this is our vibe, ladies, for 2023. That was my first line of my post. Like, this is it. Unabashed hype women. This is what we're going to do. This is how we are going to fix it. We are going to unlearn what we've been taught and what we've been conditioned to believe. It's the same stuff I said earlier, Monica. Women are a competition. Women are a threat. It's a lie. The whole thing. The whole thing is a lie. It is a lie, and it has kept us distracted from the real work because we have been wasting time fighting each other while men just fly by us, right? And have a much happier and more fulfilling life. And we are wasting our time and energy trying to take each other down versus elevate and lift each other up. So that was my call to arms was when you have that moment, when you have that feeling, because you will and you do, and it's not something to be ashamed of, make a different choice. Because that was the other thing that I think was really important about this and why it kind of like was lightning in a bottle. I mean, this went everywhere. It was showing up in Facebook feeds across the world and mom text threads and in on Zoom calls, like in every single time zone, because it was an inherent truth and women are tired of it. And so that's what was happening is here. We were saying we have a different way. We have a different way out. And so I said, start doing it. Start hyping other women. Also, you need to hype yourself because we can't celebrate you if we don't know what's going on. So tell us. And then when you tell us, we'll celebrate you. Versus what we've been shown, which is women don't talk about your accolades. Don't talk about what you're doing. That's crass. It's egotistical. No, that's a lie too, because men do it all the time. And when they do it, we call them leaders. And so we needed women to start seeing their successes as something worth celebrating themselves, and then for women to surround them in support of that. So that's what happened, and it just kind of kept going, and women kept making different choices, and then I ran with it. I used all of my own human capital and that I had all the things that I had cared about and learned and built expertise around and said, this is something that really matters. This is a platform worth investigating and worth deepening and worth pouring more of my human capital into. And so turned it into a podcast. It's become a book that's coming out. And it's a movement. It's a movement. And it's a seismic shift in the way women view one another. So what I have realized over this time is I thought that my job was to help accelerate women into positions of power and influence because I wanted women to be in charge of everything and to have all the money. That was what I was really focused on. But I realized that was still kind of like my masculine energy, like trying to make it work in that system. And I realize now that no, what I'm here to do in my job is to help women heal themselves. Because when we do that, Monica, unstoppable. When we actually take care of ourselves and heal these hurts and stop allowing the people, places, and programming that are limiting us to hold us back, there is nothing that can stop us.
Mm, beautiful. So my lipstick stained mug says, when you celebrate one woman, you celebrate all women. And, there, until you get to that point where you're being in the position of being celebrated, and I have to share something with you that every single one of the women over the past decade that we've created this awards for and these celebrations, you know what they say? Who me? Number one is who me.
Yeah.
Number two, they're so shy of stepping into that spotlight because of what they've been taught is that if they do, then it's bragging, that it's an ego. And why should they be getting that spotlight? And so it's like retraining of, if you don't stand in that spotlight and share your story and celebrate your achievements, nobody else can do it for you. Like, know what you're doing is you're giving others the power to also do that. And so I got to tell you, every single woman that I've interviewed has, well, that's not true. I would say 3% don't, but the other 97% have had a challenge with overcoming that spotlight and that recognition and that ego about owning that spotlight, owning the value of the worth, and saying, yay, I did that, and being so loud and proud and championing that for themselves. That's been the hardest thing that I have seen women come up against. And then once they overcome it, then they are champions for other women because they know how good it feels.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I mean we deflect. So often when we are recognized, we deflect. And there is a certain amount of that that is important where you say it wasn't just me, but you can't also not be there. You can't deflect to the point where you have disappeared into the ether. And I think so much of us have grown up in our homes and in our careers really equating our worth and our value with our service to others. And it's only when you stop serving others and you start serving yourself first that you can create that wherewithal to stand in the light when it comes your way.
Beautiful. Girl, we're on the same vibe, of
Yeah.
course. And I really want to also share that it is, and I want to give Jamie some flowers here. And she's I don't think that they realize the power because there's lots of women that say they champion other women. There's a lot that are very public and forward facing. But when it comes down to it, that doesn't always happen. And so I want to say, wow, because I had the pleasure of meeting her in Cannes and she got down on the stage with both, and she gave me 30 seconds of her time. Do you know what I mean? Before waving and leaving off the stage. And I said to her that, I loved how she, just you know, she is a champion of women. And it's not just an act, it's true and it's real. And I even shared, like, in this blur of stuff that I shared with her, was that I loved how she was championing and really a part of what you're doing, right? I really, it just was so refreshing to see because there's lots that talk about it, but very few will will actually use their influence and their power to actually make that shift happen. And I guess that's my same question to you, is that, women in positions of power, we really need to get that message out there as well, is that women in positions of power and influence need to actually not just talk about, but do it. And, Jamie's a perfect example of it. But do you feel that that post would have had the same effect if it wasn't two very influential women?
It's a really good question. And I think what's tricky about virality is it's hard to put a finger on it because sometimes I find that the reason something goes viral is it has three components to it. There's an inherent truth, um, it's culturally relevant, and there's a personal point of view. It has to have those three things in order for it to even be kind of in that realm. So if that moment had happened between two incredible women who people didn't know who they weren't famous actresses, and it was at like a local award show, in North Dakota, like I don't know that it would have. And yet we also have seen that happen. We've seen something that is just a very split second experience catch fire. So I don't quite know, but here's what I do know. The universe is conspiring in our favor. I had the intuition to write that post and post it, and I could have not listened. I could have been like, I don't have time to do this. I don't really know what I want to say. I feel like people are going to be critical. All of those things could have stopped me. I never write the post. Jamie never sees it. We never meet. It doesn't happen this way. None of it happens this way. It's a sliding doors moment. So I wrote the post, and then Jamie's friend saw it, and then she sent it to her. And then Jamie posted it, right? So it's like all these things kept happening, but they were all actions. That's the difference between hype and admiration. Admiration can be very quiet and passive. Hype is a verb. Hype requires action. And so it is a transfer of capital in one of those four areas that I have outlined. It's a human, social, financial, or political capital transfer. So Jamie transferred her political capital to me when she posted my words to her at the time 5.6 million followers. And then, right, we have been hyping each other back and forth for the past 2.5 years. And so much of it is unwritten. It's not like we have this contract where we are like obligated to celebrate something that the other person's doing. Sometimes we don't ask for it and the other person does it, and sometimes we do ask for it and the other person does it. And right, I asked her to write my foreword and she wrote it. I also could have not asked her to do that. So there's all these risks that are involved in getting what you believe you deserve and what your highest version of yourself is. But you have to take the action to start the momentum. So I'm indebted to Jamie. She has changed my life in so many ways because she has been willing to share her political capital with me. And I have taken that and I have poured it into other women, and they have taken it and poured it into other women, and so on and so on and so on. Um, like it's not just me being like, Jamie's so great, I'm so grateful. No, I take my kids to see Freakier Friday. And I tell everyone I'm going to see Freakier Friday. And literally everyone in my neighborhood, like as they come across on a walk, they're like, "Oh, hey, we went and we saw your girl in the theater last night," right? Because the communication is we support her. We are going to put our money into her film and help it get to $130.9 million in its first 4 weekends. That is an act. That's hype. And now me sitting here on this podcast with you talking about her and saying, she has her producer debut coming up on Apple TV with The Lost Bus. Everyone should watch it. Everyone should watch it, and everyone should share with other people that they should watch it. This is the hype women economy. We are going to continue to invest in one another. We cannot just use that old school system, because guess what? It is a game that is rigged against us. We are never going to win. New rules, new game. We're in charge.
And I couldn't agree more. And yes, I mean, I knew you were writing this book, and I'm like, we have to have you on the podcast because that's what it takes. It takes to help you project your voice, talk about the story. People have got to learn who you are and what you're all about before they can invest into you, right? So that is super, super exciting. And I do love the fact that it's the way that you call it is human capital. Here, go through those four
Yeah.
categories for us again.
Yes.
Human,
So human, social, financial, and political. So the best way to think about what those are is your human capital is what you know. It's your experience, it's your schooling, it's your job, it's everything that's in your brain. It's what you know. Social capital is who you know. Who can you make introductions for? Who have you built a network with, relationships? That's your social capital that you get to transfer to other people. Your political capital is who you are. This is your reputation. This is the power and the influence that you have in the world, is what people know you for and trust you for. And then your financial capital is what you have. It's truly cash money, right? That is important too. We need that in order to sustain ourselves and to live in a world that requires financial capital to live, eat, and care for our family members. So those are the four areas that I believe we have the power to control in this hype women economy, and to flex and to continue to make deposits and withdrawals.
beautiful. And of course, the Woman of Inspiration podcast and the Woman of Inspiration Awards is all about celebrating the achievements of women. But why is it so important for you to see those women celebrated?
Because it helps them remember who they are. All of this is about women remembering how beautiful, brave, powerful, brilliant they are. So when we celebrate a woman, when she is recognized, when she's awarded, it's a moment in time to witness her. It's necessary. We can't go through life and not say, hold on, can we just look at what is going on here? Because when we're on to the next and on to the next, on to the next, it's not a very fulfilling experience. And so when women are awarded and celebrated, that is one piece of it. It is the amplification of that and the sharing of that recognition that continues the ripple effect that will not only help her remember who she is, but also help other women remember who they are.
Beautiful. And so I'd love to know, we've talked about Jamie a lot and hype, 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 Jamie. But who are some of those other women that you want to do who have inspired you along your journey and, helped sort of open those doors in any one of those four areas for you to really step into this next phase of, what you're going to create and, your vision?
Oh, I mean, Jen Cho is a magical human that it has been gifted to me by the universe for her to want to be my friend, to want to be my sister, and for us to come into each other's lives at a time where we both were really struggling in our careers and our sort of sense of selves. We helped pull each other out of very dark places. And then because we have been front row for each other's journey, we get to stop in those moments where we see the other person regressing and say, no, 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 we're not going back there. That's not how we do this anymore. It's really important to have someone like that in your life that can help you avoid repeating lessons that you already have learned, and who is a soft place to land when things get really hard. These are the people, these are the women who they're the first people that you want to tell when something great happens, and they're the first people you need when it all falls apart. And so Jen Cho is that person for me through and through. And I would not be here in this form today if it weren't for her and her transferring of all four of those areas of capital to me innumerable times.
Beautiful. So, I want to say thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. It's been really great. I could talk to you for hours, and I look forward to a follow up here. I told you in the green room that, a couple of the topics that are really important to us as well is about our support hers. So it's about, women coming together and championing other women is super incredible. That's almost like a no-brainer. But half the population, are like literally we haven't even paid attention to that other half of the population. And so our support hers are the men that are champions for women in our world. So I would love to know who are some of those support hers in your world, and why is it so important for men to be part of that conversation to champion women?
Yes, hype women is a noun and a verb, right? It's a noun because you and I, Monica, are hype women. We are women who hype women, but anyone can hype women. So men who hype women are critically important to all of this working because they have, in almost every case, especially if they are straight white cisgendered men, they have more power and privilege. And so, how are they going to recognize that the reason so little of us are in positions of power and influence has nothing to do with our ability, our aspiration, or our ambition? It has everything to do with access. So, it's the men who recognize that and who say, let me give you access because you deserve to be in this conversation, in this room, in this consideration set. Um, I have a lot of men who have done that for me over time, and one in particular who's very involved in all of this is my agent. My agent, Frank Wyman. I was determined to have a female agent. I only interviewed women, and I met 15 different women, and they were wonderful, and just like it, none of them were the right fit. And so instead of me just saying, we'll force it, my book doula, who is making all of these introductions, said, I know you don't want to meet men, but I really feel like you need to meet Frank. And I was like, God damn it. And I get on the phone with Frank, and in 2 minutes, it's done. It's done. He's my person. And so that's my own sort of bias, an overcorrection that I need to be aware of is when I say, like, no, no, I don't want anything to do with them. They're good. They don't need my money. They don't need my time. That isn't fair. And so what Frank has done for me is he has brought his decades of experience and expertise in book publishing and pitching, books to publishing houses. He has brought a calm to my endeavor that I I don't know if any other person could have done it the way he's done it with me. So when I start spinning, and when I in the beginning when we were getting rejections from publishing houses, Frank was like, "It's all good. This is how it goes. Don't worry. The right one will hit." And I was like, "What are you smoking, man? Why are you so chill?" But it's one of the again, Frank has seen it all, and his experience walking through the world that way, he transferred that human capital to me that allowed me to do my job in this new role as an author. So shout out to Frank. Shout out to Frankie.
Well, I love that. And we need more male support her. So, any women that are listening, send this to a man because I think that is part of the opportunity for men with positions of power. And actually, anybody plays a role to support a woman. You can do it in any any level of an organization, a community, and a network. So, drop the mic on that one. I love that story. Shout out to Frank. Um, Erin, we're coming on our time here. And, this is the Woman of Inspiration podcast. I have a couple more questions for you. And one is your definition of a woman of inspiration.
A woman who lives authentically for herself.
Beautiful.
And it's a tough thing to do in a world where we are constantly seeking external validation and we have a lot of expectations. But when you see a woman who is truly living authentically for herself, it will make you deeply uncomfortable because she is pushing back on a lot of conditioning. And so instead of sensing that feeling and thinking that you're rejecting her, investigate what that's really about. Because I think what she's doing is she's stirring something up in you that is worth paying attention to.
Beautiful. And so, when is your Hype Women book coming out? Let's talk a little bit about that because we want to make sure, number one, we need to know why it's so important to get your copy because we want to make that a number one hit. And it requires hyping other women. So let's talk about things that people need to know about how they can get involved.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. It's true. I mean, this book is only successful if it's in the hands of the women who need to read it. And so that requires a transfer of financial capital. So my book comes out October 14th. We are just under 6 weeks as you and I are recording this podcast. And so it's this final push. It's exciting and daunting and nerve wracking because I want it to have impact, and I want it to do the job that I believe I have poured into it for it to do. And so when you go on hypewomen.com, I have made it really easy to buy from a multitude of retailers right there, but really anywhere that you prefer to buy your books, you can get her. Just type her name in and sometimes maybe use my name, Erin Gallagher, if you need to, if it's not popping up right away. But a pre-order is a endorsement of this idea that we are here to do things differently than the generations before us. And they have paved the way for us in so many ways, but it is up to us to continue to walk that path in a different way.
And so, what is the number one thing that you want women to get out of this book, Erin?
I mean, I've probably said it a few different ways already, so it's the same answer for a reason. I want them to remember who they are. I really do. I want them to remember, and some of this remembering is not even just in our own lifetime and body. It's our past lineage, it's our mothers, our grandmothers, it's what we're carrying at a cellular level. But I want us to remember who we are because when you do, you will not allow any of the people and the places and the programming that are trying to hold you back win. And breaking free from those three things will be the greatest gift to yourself that you could ever give.
Beautiful. What a great way to end. Thank you so much, Erin Gallagher. Congratulations on the Hype Women movement, from a Vavra post to a movement. And it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. It is long overdue, I have to say. And any other details, any last words before we end and hype you off this Woman of Inspiration stage?
I mean, thank you, Monica. Thank you for making sure this happened because it needed to happen. And I can't wait to continue to hype the work that you're doing out in the world and to encourage other women to do the same.
Beautiful. Celebrating you all the way. And to our listeners, thank you so much for listening to the Woman of Inspiration podcast. And you heard Get Your Hype Women book. If you enjoyed this podcast, which I'm sure you did, because we talked a lot about this and a lot of it was off script. I mean, I just we go where the conversation needs to go. And if you did enjoy this podcast, we encourage you to share it widely. And this message about championing other women, there are no mean girls in our networks, and let's make sure that there is no place for them ever. And if you have those little signs, let's change that and debunk that myth. So, thank you again, Erin. It's been a pleasure, and we'll talk to you very soon. Congratulations.
Thank you, Monica.